So let's sit nice and tall. Close the eyes. Take a nice breath. Allow yourself to arrive. And just feeling how you are feeling in this moment, at this time. What you're carrying, what you're expecting, what you're letting go of. And just notice the beauty of the process of being, the beauty of the process of presence. And I'll share with you, as you sit witnessing your own presence, a little something I wrote called Dharma. Your Dharma is actually the Dharma of all other people as well. To live a life that honors and reflects the vast compassion and equanimity that is the essence of the Divine Beloved. Dharma is the ethic of universal oneness, which manifests itself as compassion and equanimity in the midst of the changing nature of things. That is what makes it seem so difficult. We think nature changes are somehow our fault, or we think they are the enemy. Truth be told, we simply don't move in sync with compassion or equanimity most of the time. We fight life, love, and peace, and we try to force our egoic will. Dharma is not force, though. Dharma is compassionate acceptance of change as it manifests, a dynamic flow in our life, and then living according to the ethic of compassion and equanimity, no matter what that flow brings. And so take a moment now and just reflect. Move a little deeper inside of yourself and ask yourself at least one place in your life where you're completely going against the flow of your own wisdom, the flow of your own life, the flow of peace, the flow of being. Where are your walls of resistance high? Where are you not seeing your Dharma? And then drawing the hands together in front of the heart, we'll explore that. Let's lift our voices in one beautiful Om first. Take a breath in. And bowing the head toward the heart, honoring yourself and all others. And draw the face to center, release the hands, and flutter the eyes open. Good morning. So good to see you all today. So I'm going to preface this conversation by saying that there really isn't anything that is not linked with your Dharma. Right? So whatever condition you find yourself in, whatever moment you find yourself in, whatever attitude, whatever, everything is linked into your Dharma. You kind of function, I function on at least two levels, probably 10,000. But the two kind of basic levels that we function on are awareness and ignorance. When I walk through my life with ignorance, I blame everybody else for everything that happens to me. When I walk through my life with ignorance, I refuse to see the beauty because I'm too caught up in the chaos. When I walk through my life with ignorance, I refuse to accept responsibility. And instead, I avoid like the plague. When I walk through my life with awareness, it's the opposite. I recognize my responsibility. I embrace my responsibility. My eyes are open to the beauty, even in a moment where there doesn't seem like there is any. When I walk through my life with awareness, I'm present to the ups and downs. When I walk through my life with awareness, I'm actively participating in my own process, not blaming anybody else for anything. When I'm actively alive with awareness, I'm practicing being alive. When I am here with ignorance, I'm practicing death. And it's not the kind of death that frees us. It's the slow, painful kind. So when we're here, alive with awareness, Dharma becomes a pretty easy thing to see. It's like there's purpose to everything. There's flow to everything. There's meaning to everything. Everything is your Dharma. Everything. Waking up in the morning and how you wake up, who you encounter, how you embrace the day, how you deal with your problems. It's all part of your Dharma. When we are here and we're embodying ignorance, Dharma is nowhere to be found. It's on the highest possible shelf and you're just too darn short to reach it. So you leave it there and let it collect a little bit of dust. It's like, well, my life isn't conducive to living my Dharma. That's just another form of ignorance. Your Dharma is actually right there in that moment with you. Right there. What is Dharma? Some people define Dharma as purpose. And it is. But what kind of purpose? I mean, like, when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer or a judge or a millionaire. That's my purpose, right? I want to grow up and fall in love and get married and have 2.5 kids, live in a white house with a white picket fence, 2 dogs and a cat. That's purpose, right? No, that's not your purpose. That's your role. Your role and your purpose are 2 different things. Your purpose is the quality that you bring to the role that you play, no matter what that role is. I want to be a lawyer. Okay, great. That's the role you want to play. So you're going to go to school and spend a lot of money on your education and rack up a lot of educational loans. And then you're going to step into a law office and you're going to be faced with an opportunity to make some extra money in a very unethical way. Your ego says, you got those loans to pay off, man. Your heart says, that's a lot of harm. Are you sure you can bear the weight of that? Dharma is be an ethical lawyer. Be an honest lawyer. Be a lawyer based in love and kindness and truth. But let's just say that you choose the other one. You choose to go with this opportunity, which is a little sketchy, you know. My stepfather was Irish. And he had a friend when he was growing up named Pussy Russo. Does anybody know who that is? Pussy Russo. He was from the Jersey Shore, a member of the mafia. I think they found him deceased, not by nature, in the basement of his house or something like that in Monmouth Beach, I think it was. Yeah, it was very strange. But let's just say somebody like that, you know, comes up to you and says like, okay, so I hear you're a great lawyer. Now you're going to be our lawyer. And you're like, well, I could pay my loans off. Okay, number 1, that was your first opportunity to embrace your Dharma. You either did and said kind of no thank you, you know, or you didn't. And you entered into this relationship that has a lot of potential harm to it. Dharma doesn't leave you. You're not now outside of your Dharma. You're still in your Dharma. Oh boy, are you in your Dharma, because every single moment you have an opportunity to step into the flow of what we could call recognition of goodness, recognition of purpose, equanimity. Wherever you are, do the least harm. Wherever you are, be as present as possible. Wherever you are, shine the light of goodness. Don't just believe in the darkness. Don't just believe in the bad. Bad is a label. It's a human label. It doesn't really exist. Even if you find yourself in the midst of a war zone, what good can you bring to that situation? What person needs your kindness? So just because you make this choice to kind of go this route, and it's a route that's really questionable, your Dharma isn't over now. Now, whatever situation you find yourself in, how do you step up? How do you step up? Maybe it's recognizing that you have the opportunity to change your mind. Well, no, I can't change my mind. These people are pretty powerful. They won't let me. No. They won't stop you from changing your mind. That's your mind. It's your mind. It's your mind. It's your ego. It's your body. It's your choice. They may react, and you don't have control over that. But it's your choice, always. That's all scary, right? It's like, but then you don't really have a choice, right? Because like they could hurt you. Well, maybe they could physically hurt you. But they can never spiritually hurt you. Because your spirit is untouchable and impeccable. Your spirit is untouchable by anything at all. And so the choice becomes, do I stay or do I go? Like the good Clash song, do I stay or do I go now? And if I stay, how much do I stay? How do I stay? And if I go, how much do I go and how do I go? What is under my control and what is not under my control? The only thing that is really under your control is your choice. Everything else is not under your control because everything else is the result of the play of the gunas of nature, the qualities of nature. So you could choose to go, right? And you're shaking in your boots and you're like, I'm going to tell these people I don't want their crooked money. I don't want their crooked relationship. I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to go live in a monastery somewhere. And you leave, and as you walk out, you get hit by a bus. Right? At least you got hit by a bus knowing you made the most ethical choice possible. Or you could stay and you're shaking in your boots. And you're like, I don't know, I don't want to go deep into this. I don't want to, this is just not the place for me. But while you're there, working out all the details of what you want and what you don't want, and you're, maybe not making as much of a choice as you would in another moment, maybe there's other choices that you can make. Like influencing a less crooked approach. Like practicing kindness to people who are frightened. To people who are oppressed, to people who don't have hope or vision, providing them with a conversation about the possibility of acquiring one. Wherever you are. The thing that I don't like about anti-war protests, and I'm not a pro-war person in any way, shape, or form, if a war has to be had, it has to be had. If a war doesn't have to be had, then it shouldn't be had. But that's up to the government. The soldier is not necessarily the one who's wrong, right? The soldier is the one who has made the choice to go. And what I pray is that in their going, that they have an opportunity to commit goodness, to commit kindness. And you hear those stories all the time about these soldiers who, the most recent thing I read was this story about a soldier who was in Iraq, I think it was, and he was working with a woman, or it was a woman actually. She was working with a woman who had some kind of a local shop where the women met in kind of secret, and they were providing them with some kind of resource. And this woman, U.S. soldier, was really on the up and up with her relationship with this other woman, trying to get them resources, trying to support them as best they could. And in return, this woman was providing them with information. She's putting her life on the line in order to get, maybe clean water for her kid or something, or for this group of women and children. And all I can think of there is this U.S. soldier may be there for what we could consider to be the wrong reasons, but the good part that comes out of that is maybe she's able to provide resources for these people. Like, who are we to say that that's completely wrong? Who are we to make that judgment? Would we be willing to pack up our suitcases with some fresh water and bring it over to them? Would we be willing to pack up our suitcases with some food and bring it over? School books, pencils, pens, whatever it is that they need. Filtration system. Are you and I willing to do that? This woman found herself in a situation which very well could have felt against her Dharma. And she, maybe unconsciously, but maybe consciously, found a way to also do some good. Now you might say, well, but she was only doing that because she was trying to get information. Do we really know that? Or are we making an assumption that everybody always acts on the worst possible impulse in order to get what they want? What do we really know? What do we really know? But we can look at that and we can say, in that situation, in any situation, in the situation with this fake person who took this job, as an attorney for the mafia, what we can say is, whatever decision that person makes, let there be the least harm because of it, please. Let them see the light of their Dharma. The Dharma is to be with the flow of the universe and not to be in an artificially constructed situation of the ego's making. Your Dharma is to be with what is, not to make up artificial constructs and then get all tied up in that. Your Dharma is not some bright, shiny principle to be put on display for all to see. No. Because if you put it on display for all to see, then you're not living it. Your Dharma is to be lived, not shown off. It's not some superficial ideal that you'll never be able to reach. In some ways, you're already living it. Whether you know it or not, you're either here in this moment in a place of awareness or a place of ignorance. If you're aware in this moment, you know you're living your Dharma. You know that the choice to sit here and listen and to converse is part of your Dharma. One part of your Dharma. Everything you do is part of your Dharma. There's a movie that came out in the 90s, I think. It was one of those world-ending movies. And it was at the end of the movie, there was a tidal wave, a tsunami coming. And I forget who the actress is, but I think it was Mary Beth Mastro-Antonio. It wasn't The Abyss. It was one of her other movies. And she drives all the way down to Washington, D.C. or Virginia Beach or something like that because they know that the tsunami is coming. Now, how she had time to get there from New York, I'll never know. But anyway, and her dad is down there. And she just really wants to reconcile with her dad before the whole East Coast is gone. So she goes to the nursing home where he's at, and she takes him. They both go, he agrees to this. They both go to the beach where they spent their her childhood, all the good memories she had, and they sat on the beach. And they just waited because they knew there was no getting away from it. They knew they would never make their way through, the roadblocks and the traffic jams and all these other things. And so they reconciled with themselves to be with nature as it came to them. And they died in each other's arms. And I have to say, I thought that was the most beautiful scene of the movie, was the reconciliation between these two people brought about by nature. Brought about by the heart, brought about because of Dharma and an ability to be present to what is. Somebody else who was watching the movie with me was like, oh my God, that was such a sad scene. I'm like, no, I don't think it was sad. I think it was hopeful. I think the message it was sending us was that you can run away all you want, but you can't go anywhere. Everything that you're running away from is right there with you, running right alongside you. And it'll still be there when you get to wherever it is you think you're going. So why not just stop right now and be present to everything that is in as knowing a way as possible? And then consider choices. Consider the choices that are least harmful. Consider the choices that are most reconcilable. Consider the choices that bring a sense of peace to your heart and health to your gut. Consider the choices that also support others in them being able to see their choices. In order to do that, though, we have to be present to what is. Present to what is your Dharma. Absent to what is ignorance. Does that make sense? Yeah? Can you all identify with that? Like, is there some place in life where you're a little more absent, maybe on purpose, and other places in life where you think you're present? Think is the key word there. Yeah. This beautiful word, Dharma. And we're all part of this Dharma. We're all part of this flow. And like I said, there's lots of ways to talk about it. There's like levels of Dharma, like there is a Dharma of what you're called to do in this life, like be a lawyer or a doctor or a judge, whatever, teacher. That there is a Dharma that's associated with that. But the question then is, what quality do you bring to that? And that's the truer Dharma. Are you an ethical lawyer or an ambulance chaser? Are you an ethical judge or a judge that takes payoffs? Are you a doctor who truly treats for the betterment of your patient? Or are you a doctor that conducts unnecessary surgeries for extra insurance money? So yes, there is a Dharma that has to do with what you do, with the role you play. Are you a parent to a child? What kind of parent are you? Are you the parent who supports your child in discovering their true self, or are you a parent who quashes your child over and over again? So the role you play, how you play that role, is part of your Dharma. And kind of like the next level up is your spirituality, which is really no different than the role, than the qualities you bring to the role you play. It's all intertwined, but we like to segregate things out, put them in tiers, so we have something to rise up to. Yeah. So your spirituality, what is your Dharma with your spirituality? I'm not happy with my religion. I'm not happy with my spirituality. I don't have any guidelines. I have too many guidelines. I don't know who to listen to. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you don't like the organization that you belong to, then don't belong to the organization, but don't diminish the teachings, like the core teachings. Not what like some person tells you. Go to the root. What is it written in every scripture? What is the core teaching? I guarantee you it has something to do with love. It has something to do with unity. It has something to do with self-discovery. Don't throw those things away. If you don't like the voice that's telling you about it, then find another voice. But before you go running off to find another voice, ask yourself what you don't like about that voice. Is it that you feel that they're inauthentic in some way, shape, or form? Are you privy to knowledge about some harm that has been done? Or do you just not like that they're telling you what you need to do, which makes you really super uncomfortable because you're not willing to do it? Acknowledging that is another part of your Dharma. Like, if Swamiji had told me 13 to 14 years ago, half of what I would have gone through in these 13 or 14 years, I don't know if I would have, in that first moment, You're going to have to hold that posture, until you want to vomit. You have to sit in meditation for 6 hours, 8 hours, 2 hours, 20 minutes. You're going to have to face yourself. I don't know, in that first moment. I don't know. I can't remember back that far. Thank goodness. But I can only imagine that if he would have said that to me at a certain point in time, I probably would have said, "Are you nuts? I don't want to do that. I'm going to go hang out with my friends, man. I want to go to my kids' school play. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. I want to go on vacation. I don't want to sit in meditation for hours on end. Because sitting in meditation for hours on end is different somehow than going on vacation, at least in the human mind. Actually, it's no different, right? Once you're at that place where you recognize everything is the same, and then it's no different. But initially we think, well, vacation is fun, meditation is not. Vacation is escape, meditation is presence. Vacation is go pretend to be whoever it is that you want to be, in any given minute. Meditation is, who am I really? So meditation is, at least initially, it looks much harder, and it's something that we would probably run away from rather than embrace. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we look at our life and we say, where is my spirituality? Well, your spirituality is with you always because your spirit is with you always. Spirituality is simply acknowledgement of spirit, period. So you don't have to look at the church and say, oh my God, the church sucks today. Everybody leave. You don't have to look at the temple and say, I don't want to be part of an organized religion. No way. What you have to ask yourself is, where is spirit within you manifesting itself that you are embracing it or knocking it down and hiding it? And if the church has some tool to support you in showing, growing, thriving your spirit, then embrace that tool. And if it doesn't, then leave it alone. It's just not for you. It's not that it's wrong. It's just not for you. You see, I don't need cholesterol medicine. My cholesterol levels are just fine. But I don't know, maybe you do. So I'm not going to sit there and tell you, cholesterol medicine is bad, bad, bad. There's absolutely no purpose to it whatsoever. Toss the baby out with the bathwater. I could be killing you by saying that. I could be killing you spiritually also by telling you that the church has absolutely no value for anybody. It's just a bunch of hogwash. Does that make sense? That's just my opinion, if in fact it were my opinion, which it's not. Because there are some people who need that, just like there are people who need the temple, just like there are people who need the ashram, just like there are people who need nature. You are drawn to what you need. And when the moment comes that you don't need it anymore, then you're drawn to something else. And your dharmic mission, should you choose to accept it, is to know the difference between being drawn to something else because there's a true need to continue growing and expanding, and being drawn to something else because whatever you just saw scared the shit out of you and you don't want to face it right now. Yeah? There's a big difference. There's a big difference there. If you are practicing whatever spirituality it is that you practice, whatever religion it is that you practice, if you're practicing that on a day-to-day basis in as many moments as possible, then it becomes obvious when you're running away versus making a choice that is a choice based in knowing. We could call that evolution. We could call it involution. Because you'll walk away and you won't be angry. You'll walk away and you'll recognize that you've outgrown this, or that it's outgrown you. You'll walk away and recognize that I've gotten the answers that I could get, and now it's time for me to get other answers. And those other answers are not better or worse than the answers you got before. They're just different somehow. And they may not be hugely different, but they're coming at you from another direction. There's this great story. Everybody here know who the Red Hats are? Yeah. So the Red Hats are a group of women, and they wear red hats. And they wear all kinds of fancy red hats, like big red hats and little red hats and, Victorian red hats and all kinds of red hats. And so the story goes like this. there's this whole group of red hats, and they go to the theater. And this other woman goes to the theater with her boyfriend, and they got their seats behind the red hats. And the red hats were in the way. So she'd look over here, try to see the stage, and the person with the red hat would go that way. And then she'd go over here, and of course they would move. And then she'd go over here. And she sat there just getting more and more angry. Ugh. Just more and more angry, that fire burning inside of her. Now she's like cursing at this person in front of her because she's so irritated. But she had other options. She could have tapped on her shoulder and said, I can't see the stage. Could you take your hat off? She could have got up and asked for a different seat if there were other seats in the auditorium. She could have asked to switch seats with the woman. She had lots of other options, but she chose anger. What option are you choosing? When you leave or when you stay? Are you choosing to leave or to stay in anger? Or are you choosing to leave or to stay in love? In faith, in goodness? By goodness, I don't mean like everything is good. Everything is not good. I'm sorry. All you have to do is walk through the world to see that everything is not good. But everything is as it is meant to be right now. So that you and me and all of us have an opportunity over and over and over again, no matter which place we're looking at it from, to come into contact with our Dharma and to make choice after choice after choice that is either in line with that Dharma or out of line with that Dharma. And even if your choice is out of line with that Dharma, then don't worry. You'll have another choice. There's always another layer to the onion. This cycle is non-ending. People in spiritual realms today, like these, particularly in the West, I don't know. We get a hold of these catchphrases and we take them so like literally. The word enlightenment, the word awakening, what does that even mean? We think it means I'm going to be perfect all the time. Who here likes chocolate? Good, there's truffles for sale in the cafe. So I made those truffles, right? And I like chocolate. I love chocolate. I don't want to see another truffle for a while. Because I had quite a few of them. And the first one that I tasted was heaven. Oh man, it was so good. And the second one was heaven. There's 4 kinds. And the third one was heaven. And the fourth one was heaven. Now they had a little different flavor each, so there are 4 different kinds of heaven. And then I'm putting the little baggies together, and I had an extra one. So I had one. And that was good too. It wasn't heaven though. I'm probably going to have to stay away from truffles now for about a year in order to rediscover the heaven. Every experience we have in life is like that, where sometimes it brings you heaven, and sometimes it just brings you the opportunity to rediscover heaven, or not, to rediscover something else. So that somewhere down the line, when you make a certain kind of choice for a certain kind of reason with a certain kind of intention, there's that heaven again. And now you know it because you have something else to compare it to. Does that make some sense? This is why it's really super important not to curse your life. Like, you're having a bad time right now? I'm really sad to hear that. But I also have 100% faith that you're where you are because this is where Dharma comes to you. Absolutely. This is where Dharma comes to you. This is where God comes to you. This is where Goddess comes to you. This is where nature comes to you. This is where you come to you. This is where everything comes to you in this moment and no other. So if you're cursing this moment, you're putting walls up. And you're saying, no Dharma, no spirit, no nature, no goodness, no possibility, no. Start taking the walls down and be right where you're at. Sit in the center of the rawness. Even if you feel like you're breaking open. Even if you feel like, you're under some kind of torture. Be right with yourself, where you are, so that you can recognize every or as many opportunities to come into alignment with your Dharma. Now, what happens when you do that is that your faith deepens. Your faith in what? Whatever you have faith in. I'm not going to tell you what to believe in. I have a good idea what I believe in. I don't believe in anything. I have faith in certain things. Now, I say that because when I was in graduate school, I was in, my anthropology was my overarching PhD. My specialization was biological archaeology, which is considered a hard science. And I had to work alongside a physical anthropologist who is also a hard science. And I learned you don't ever say the word believe in front of one of them. Because we were talking about some results that came back from some things I was doing. And I said, so what do you believe this tells us? She got very serious and stern and said, I don't believe it tells us anything because I don't believe. Belief is for fantasies. We're going to look at the data. And I looked at her and I went, whoa, okay, lesson learned. But she had a point, even though she's coming from a scientific place. I mean, half of my mind is scientific, I get it. But we don't want to just believe in anything. That's not, useful, right? You want to investigate it. You want to know what goodness is? Go investigate it. You want to know what harm is? Investigate it. You want to know what peace is? Investigate it. You want to know what faith is? Investigate it. Find out. Don't just take someone else's word for it. Please don't take my word for it. Faith that I have is from my own experience. The faith that you have is from yours. And there's no difference between those two, and yet there's every difference between those two. Because what has come to me is the medicine that I need, and what comes to you is the medicine that you need. And I will never tell you not to take cholesterol medicine because I don't know what condition you're in. Just like I will never tell you to have my faith because I don't know what faith you need. I just know that we all need something. Whatever brand you're buying, we all need something. And what I would like to see in my own wishful thinking would be that the faith that everyone experiences, no matter what religious or spiritual tradition they belong to, that it's based in the truth and the root of the teaching and not the superficial BS that so many people are providing these days. That's my hope for you, is that you go past, this is the only way. This isn't the only way. No way is the only way, except for maybe one way. That would be love. So to be able to come into this space of what they call divine love within the yoga, the Vedanta, the Advaita Vedanta, they call divine love. Many traditions call it that. But the ability of any one of us to come to that place of 100% divine love, I'll be really honest with you, is not real good. It's not likely. It's not. We'll make little movements along the way. Some people, some situations, it'll be very easy to fall into something we think is divine love, but that's only because it makes us happy, satisfies us somehow. The moment that someone throws a wrench into that little situation, suddenly divine love goes out the window. And then we start the blame game again. So divine love is not easy because divine love is 100% unconditional acceptance of what is and choosing love anyway. That's hard. Even the Dalai Lama said when he was asked about that one time, he said, divine love escapes me every time I try to think about it. Because the moment that I think about the possibility of divine love, I think of all the hindrances there are against it. Now I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that was my take on it. That every time we think about divine love, we also think about the hindrances to it. That's the heart versus the ego. The heart says, I want to experience this completeness, this wholeness of love. And the ego says, oh yeah? Well, what about so-and-so? You going to love them too? And what about that one? You going to love that one too? And what about that one? And then suddenly the ego is getting more and more powerful because it's aggravating you. It's irritating you from the inside out. And pretty soon, love, divine love, and maybe even human love, is placed on that shelf next to enlightenment as something that's out of your reach. But it's not out of your reach. In certain moments, it's right there in your awareness. And in other moments, we're just ignorant to it. But it's like the sun on a cloudy day. It's still there. It's just that you're choosing to see the clouds rather than the sun. Choosing to see the sun and the clouds is more in line with Dharma than choosing only the clouds or only the sun. And the reason for that is because you're in a physical body, living in a physical world where there are clouds and sun, being with what is, and not taking any one physical attribute as the entire truth, because none of them are. It's only when you can see all of it, every bit of it, and still rest in your own heart, that it's exactly what it's meant to be in this moment. And we don't know why. We don't understand why. We don't have to. Then you can take that enlightenment off the shelf, dust it off, stick it in your pocket. Until then, we'll just have little moments of enlightenment. Like when we meet someone for the first time and we smile. That smile is a breaking open of our vulnerability, of the walls that we put up. When we hear a child laughing and it makes us feel good, that's a moment of awakening, you know? The first time that we kiss our sweetheart, or that we enjoy a good laugh with someone, which was at the expense of no one. Little moments of awakening along the way. And gradually, if we allow them to, they build and they build and they build into what's called celebration. Celebration. Oh, powerful word. One thing I love about India, see how I'm doing time-wise? Okay, good. One thing I love about India is the number of celebrations they have yearly. They've got hundreds of them. I think I counted I read an article that said 795 or something. I'm probably wrong on that number, but whatever. It's a lot, right? There's only 365 days in a year. Most of those celebrations are 10 days long. You do the math. There's always something to celebrate. And I think that's genius, because there is always something to celebrate. Even the clouds are cause for celebration, because without them, the earth would dry up and nothing would grow. Celebrate the clouds. Even the tsunami in that movie. Because look at the beautiful reconciliation on the Hollywood screen, of course, that it caused. But the reality is that, when there are disasters like that, it brings people together in reconciliation. It just does. Reconciliation is not about you reconciling with your church, you reconciling with some human authority. Reconciliation is about you and your heart with whatever it is that you have faith in. That's what reconciliation is. And in my opinion, no one can really tell you how to do that. They can only show you little steps that you might want to take or that you might not want to take. You're the only one who's going to know it. But in order to know it, you got to be less ignorant and more aware. Which means that you got to put away some of the tendencies of putting up the walls and be more present to what is. Okay, this situation right now with my boss is really hard, and I'm feeling like I want to lash out and be angry or run out of here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay with it for a few moments. I'm going to kind of see what I'm feeling and why. Become more knowledgeable about yourself. Don't just have knee-jerk reactions all the time. Know why you're having them. Then make a choice. And if you choose the knee-jerk reaction, so at least you're doing it knowledgeably. But if you're just having knee-jerk reactions because that's your go-to, well, wow, what a waste of energy that is. Right? I mean, yeah. If I'm going to react, I want to at least know I'm doing it. And then maybe know my options. Because maybe there's a different way that doesn't waste so much energy. And then maybe the energy that's saved because I'm behaving a little bit more mindfully can be reoriented towards something else, like personal awakening, practice of Dharma with awareness, recognition, and reconciliation of self with self and of self with all others. So what are your thoughts on that today? Boy, was that a lot. Wasn't sure where that was going today. It always goes somewhere, doesn't it? Those of you who know me, who come regularly, know I don't prepare for these talks. I just kind of listen and interact with what I'm seeing when I'm looking at you, and that just seemed to work this morning. So what are your thoughts? Any questions, any reflections, any ideas of your own that you would like to share? Rich.
I believe every life experiences the same thing, not in the same sequence or order, but throughout an entire life, at some point you get those. And when role and purpose, they're going to conflict throughout a lifetime.
Yeah.
But there's going to be moments you're going to remember. And speaking to the choices you were talking about, I've always leaned toward purpose as opposed to the role. And in a lot of ways it wasn't rewarding, but the one thing each time, I'm thinking specifically to 2 or 3 moments in my life where the majority of friends and family said I was crazy, but each time I was happy.
Yeah.
And that's a reward you can't put value on.
Agreed.
So, and the other thing is I think what you speak to is informed choice. And tying it to love and divine love are 2 different things. I think of love as being an emotion. And emotions will cloud your judgments, and it will take away from the informed choice. And raising my kids, I always try to tell them, reflect, take time away. Don't let your emotion, as hard as it is, and it's at times impossible.
Agreed.
Divine love speaks to purpose, and human love just speaks to the emotions that can cloud judgments, can take away from an informed choice.
Absolutely. Human love is probably 95% possession. It's based on having someone, however you want to label that. And part of that arrangement is that someone has now become somehow responsible for making me happy. And that's, just look at any relationship, We may be more aware or less aware, but even the most aware person still will fall into that trap. Why are you acting like that? That doesn't make me happy. Pick your socks up off the floor. Right? Come on. It's true. It's all expectation. It's not to sound like, it's because there's so much beauty to it also. Human love, and the human love that moves between, people has such potential, profound potential to awaken us to compassion, to awaken us to acceptance and service. When you're in a relationship with someone, no matter what that relationship is, whether you're lovers or friends or family, the relationship is about serving each other. It's about holding space for each other. It's about empowering each other to be exactly who you are without preconceived notions of who one should be. And that's hard. But then that's taking that human love and elevating it a bit closer to that divine love, which it is the gateway for that. It is the gateway for that. But because we function at a minimum on these two levels of kind of like spirit and ego, there's always a battle. Always a battle. And I completely agree. The happiness that one experiences when they are in line with their Dharma, or more in line with their Dharma, or even just a little bit in line with their Dharma, is freedom from guilt and strife over not being true to oneself. And I don't mean egoic truth, like this is what I want and to heck with you if you don't like it. I mean like that which puts you at ease. That which puts you at ease alleviates guilt, alleviates justification, alleviates defensiveness. And that empowers health and wellness and vibrancy and a certain sense of satisfaction, which is not the egoic kind. It's just happy. It's happy. It's like you can see the sun and the clouds and be okay with both. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that. Anybody else? One of you want to say something? Yeah?
No. Well, I was talking to her, and I like that you said about the role and your purpose, and sometimes it's hard to tell if you should stay or if you should go. I went to school for criminal justice and thought I wanted to be a child abuse investigator, and once I got there, I don't know why I'm getting emotional about it, because I was really happy when I left. But now you said that sometimes almost you're meant to be somewhere, but it doesn't feel like you are, because it's difficult. So now you said that, it's kind of making me like, I don't know, feel guilty about leaving, or I don't know what I'm feeling.
Maybe you weren't supposed to stay. Maybe there was a moment where you were supposed to learn something. And that was why you were there. And maybe what you were supposed to learn was that you have more learning to do. See, really when it comes down to, we can talk about these alignments with Dharma but we also have this thing called karma. And karma is not a payback system. It's not like you did something wrong, so something bad's going to happen to you. That's not what karma is. Karma is cause and effect. And if you adhere to the idea of multiple lifetimes that you've reincarnated, then you have a lot of energy that is following you through that requires reconciliation. It requires right relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that if you punch someone in your last lifetime, they get to punch you in this lifetime. No. What it could mean is that maybe in the last lifetime, and this is overly simplistic, you had a tendency to throw punches. Now, in this lifetime, maybe that's something that you're going to constantly come into contact with, is circumstances where you might pick that vibration back up again of constantly throwing punches, but maybe in this lifetime your karma is reconciled because you don't. Because you learn patience, which is the opposite of reaction. And that's the karmic resolution. So instead of saying to yourself, well, maybe it was a knee-jerk reaction, maybe it was a this, maybe it was a that, it's in the past, it's done. What can you carry forward with you now? What can you carry forward with you? What have you learned? What are you still learning? I can pretty much guarantee you that something is going to come across your path where you're going to be able to apply what you've learned. Absolutely. Because abuse is chronic in this world. So just kind of sharing a little bit, which I often do, maybe too much, I don't know. But I had a really hard childhood with a lot of abuse. And one of the things that got me through that was a voice in my ear that said, you're going to survive this. This is going to make you stronger. And you're going to need that strength one day. So pay attention and be strong. I was 8 years old. And then I grew up and I went through all kinds of different things. And there were all kinds of different things where I needed the strength that started being built when I was a child. For later. For things that I had no idea were going to come across my path. But I keep hearing that voice. Whenever I come against something or up to something that seems insurmountable, say, you've been strong enough to live through so much. You will deal with this. So we don't have any way of knowing what the lessons of the past hold for us today. Just have faith they do. And accept that you made a choice. And if the choice felt like the appropriate choice in that moment, then on some level it was. And now moving forward, keep what you've learned accessible. So that when you need it, it comes forward again. Absolutely. I think we all find ourselves at some point in that place. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we all want to be of service in this world. And I think that there are many great services, but being of service to children who are suffering is potentially one of the highest, you know. Maybe there will be a child that you'll need to be of service to. Just not yet.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, Kevin.
And thank you so much for sharing. Just add on 2 points, but to add on to you, never, I believe, don't have regrets and don't doubt that situation that you chose or that decision you chose in the moment. Just like Swamini says, you know, it's in the past now and there was a reason for it, whether that comes to you now or 20 years from now. And definitely don't beat yourself up or question yourself, right? Because that's the worst. But then also back to love, because what Rich said, it kind of plays off of what you said about the truffles, right? They were heavenly, and they are. Okay, I encourage everyone to buy that because they are. But it's this concept then of the human emotion that we just use love too much. I believe in saying too much, like, oh, I love the pizza. Oh, I love this shirt. Oh, I love this shawl. But is it love? It's a like. Right? Can we really have a love for this tangible thing? I don't know, and I think that diminishes the concept of love and also diminishes the idea of divine love, because you can't love we can have love for all beings, yes, of course, but I love this ring, I love these things, do we? We like them, and we should be grateful that we have the opportunity or that we've been given these things, but we don't
And I think I even said to you this morning, I was like, I love that shawl.
Oh,
Right? And I don't love that shawl. That shawl is attractive to my senses. So the sight, the sound, the texture, whatever it happens to be, it brings me into a certain kind of awareness. Yeah, which I can appreciate or not. Yeah, completely. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that today our community lays to rest a very, very sweet and kind spirit, which is Anthony Myers. He was only 17 and he died of cancer, and he was a kid who touched so many people. I mean, he was definitely well beyond his 17 years.
Yeah.
So,
Is he the young man who had brain cancer?
he did.
Yeah.
He had brain cancer. But, you know, when he was diagnosed, my daughter went to school with him, and her and her friends were so upset it was really him. He's just the nicest person. He doesn't have a bad word to say about anybody. And he remained really positive throughout everything, and did what he knew as the cancer kid, wanted to see how his experience could be used to help other people in bad situations. So just keep his family and his school community in your thoughts today, because
Absolutely.
He was a really bright light.
Yeah. And he has he has gifted us with a radiance that will last a long
He
time.
really was radiant. He really was a beautiful boy. He was really a radiant soul.
Yeah. So let's sit nice and tall and close the eyes. Place the right hand on the heart, left hand over the right. And take a moment to send Anthony and his family your love, your kindness, your awareness, your compassion. Send that to yourself as well, and to all the beings who have ever crossed your path or ever will. May we all come to know peace in this life. Together we'll lift our voices in one Om. Take a nice breath in. And bowing the head to the heart, acknowledging all. And draw the face to center. Namaste. We're going to be coming into the Arati now, which I'm just so excited about and in love with, because it absolutely gets my senses going. Arati is a celebration of light, and we're going to be here on the stage, and it's probably going to take about 40 minutes. It's a series of chants, which we have handouts for everybody, and you don't have to chant if you are not comfortable doing so. You just listen. And the word Arati means complete love. That's what it translates as. And in this particular ritual, it's about opening the heart to love, which is just so profound that we were talking about that a moment ago. And so opening the heart to love, opening the heart to a higher love, a more profound love, and also all the love that we experience as humans, no matter how we label it. So I hope that you join us for that. And then the cafe is serving until about 1 o'clock. So there's time for this and that, both. And we also have chair massage later this afternoon. We have Thai yoga sessions later this afternoon. We have make and takes all afternoon. We have beautiful vendors up front, if any of you have seen them so far. Wow. I got to try not to love everything I see up there. Yeah. So we're going to start this in about 5 minutes. So if you need to use the restroom, please do, and then come back and join us. Thank you all. Wonderful.